Happy Sunday, everyone. Welcome to Our Issues Birmingham. Today's guest is State Senator Rodger Smitherman. Welcome to our show, Rodger.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, our pleasure. We're having this show right in the heat of battle, although most of the battle, I think, is done. You got one more legislative day remaining on May 17th, I think. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And you've been there for the past 50 some odd days. And of course, I'm sure the viewing audience is curious about the things we read about online. Primarily, it appears that we have some medical marijuana legislation awaiting the governor's signature. And based on my review of it, I would call it medical marijuana light because it has a lot of conditions to it. And I think that it'll be a bit before we actually see it happening. But can you address that first and then maybe talk a little bit about what's going on in general with respect to gambling, lottery, things of that nature that are, of course, of interest to people?
Sure. Yes, the bill completed its final hearing. That's to make a marijuana bill when the bill was returned back to the Senate to concur with the changes that the House had made. Some of the more sweeping changes that the House made is that they took out the ability for women to use it as it relates to menopause or as it relates to those kind of women issues in terms of pain and whatever discomfort they called. Actually, there was a lady, a House representative person who actually took it out. The aspects that would address many of the concerns that females would have.
Are you fairly confident the governor will sign the bill as it now sits?
I think she will. I mean, it's every safeguard and precaution that you're just about to think of is placed on the bill. And that's after having that study about, that panel of people, which included UAB, so whether or not it would be beneficial for citizens. So I think that it's been vetted and re-vetted numerous times to where I think that the governor will probably sign the bill.
Would you agree with me that it's fairly limited in its accessibility for the common citizen?
I would, and even in his application, some of those applications to it have been stripped off of it, just as I said about the aspect with the lady. So it's a very narrow, structured and limited bill.
But it is a start.
It is, and some of the conversations came up about people trying to get away from the opium addiction for illnesses that they have, and then some of the other illnesses, some of the treatment that people receive, the side effects is really almost as harmful as the illness.
Absolutely.
So there's a variety of things that they looked at in trying to formulate this bill.
Well, it carried both houses, the House and the Senate, by very large margins. So it must have some vitality amongst our legislative body that they think it's worthwhile and something that needs to be signed into law. What about the lottery casino issues? Those seem to be at a standstill.
Well, they are. I'll tell you, the House, they kind of got in a situation where there was a group of them that wanted just a lottery, and but the vast majority of them wanted the combination of both, the casinos and the lottery. So they really ended up in a stalemate. We have one more day to address that issue. Whatever the House, if they send the Senate something, then I can pretty much assure you that what they're saying that the Senate probably will offer a substitute for it. And then, of course, we'll go to conference at that point. and see if there's enough time to work out those differences to get a final version before both bodies. Of course, it might be debate on that aspect of it, and if we may get a final, we have the ability to get a version out before time run out, but debate may hinder it from being considered by, the legislature before that time.
Does that have to take place before midnight on Monday?
That's correct. When it hit midnight, the session is over with.
Are there other bills? I know there's nothing as controversial as, or at least I'm not aware of anything as controversial as the lottery bill or the gambling bill or whatever you want to call it. Are there some other bills out there that we should anticipate coming into law?
Well, one of the most immediate bills that the House will be looking at is the literacy bill. Right now the literacy bill is set up where after 3 years they start testing kids in the third grade, and if they don't meet a certain retention test, then they won't get a chance to be promoted. That particular bill, its implementation has been hindered by the COVID-19. Of course, the way the schools are and where the kids are not being able to get hands-on teaching and tutorial. So that bill that's before the body will extend that time for 2 years before that testing takes place. So to give our kids and our teachers and everyone a chance to get back online with the elevated tutorials and the structured teaching to help them get to that level. So that's a big deal, because otherwise the next year's group will be the first group facing that. And the word is that it could be up to 40% of those third graders not passing that test and being retained back in the third grade across the state.
Yeah, that would
have half of your third graders that may face that just simply because they haven't had the chance to get the help and the one-on-one instructions due to COVID-19.
Well, let's talk some more about other things going on down there when we come back from break. This is Our Issues Birmingham. I'm Tommy Spina. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Our Issues Birmingham. We were discussing the literacy bill, and I was talking at break with Senator Smitherman about what it actually did for the kid. And as I understand it, it extends the period within which the child, the student, can take the test. It would give an additional 2 years to a third grader, for example, to take the literacy test. To advance in the curriculums to the next grade. But it wouldn't hold them back. They wouldn't have to wait to go to the fourth grade, would they?
No, I mean, they on all actually the likelihood the group that's third grade now be in the fifth. So this would pertain to the first graders now. They will be third grade. And then at that point is when we will actually start taking the test to where they will be held back or not. They may give a like a better word, a mock test this year to see where they're setting and what help that they may need as they go forward. Even though we may actually put the retention part back, extend it out for 2 more years before it start kicking in the retention part. But the testing and the assistance is going to continue on, and during that period as well.
Well, and this is brought about by the fact that because of COVID, the ability to learn, the capabilities available and the tools available to teach the learning have been hampered, correct?
That's correct. I mean, when you think about it, we're talking about a 5-year-old, 6-year-old, 7-year-old, and maybe an 8-year-old. They're gonna need somebody sitting right by them constantly. In terms of assistance and help, and just the ones that who may be able to have some kind of hook up with the school in terms of virtual. They still won't have anybody there sitting with them on a continuous basis to give them the assistance that they need. So that's where it's so important if they get back in school to where they'll be right there with the teacher.
Yeah, well, we got to get people vaccinated. We're running behind in that universe, and I know people are giving away season tickets and everything else to try to get people to just get a shot. Personally, I'm asking you, if you're listening out there, what's the big deal? Go get a shot, even if it's the one and done. Please. So I have another pet peeve with our legislative body. What's going on with the expansion of Medicaid, and what's dragging that back?
Well,
it just seems like a no-brainer to me.
So what now?
It seems like a no-brainer to me.
It is a no-brainer. I agree with that. But one of the problems is that when we passed the gas tax, there was discussion about those additional revenues being used to match so we could expand. But that didn't take place. Now there's a way that we can do it with the money that's coming from President Biden to actually expand. One of the throwbacks from the side of people that don't want to expand, they're saying that this money only lasts for 3 years, and after that, then we won't be able to maintain it at that level because of the match that we will have to come up with at that time. But my position is simply this: is that when it's a tornado outside, you get shelter then. You don't worry about whether it's going to be a tornado 3 years from now. You take care of the tornado while it's going on right now. And right now, we can take care of a whole lot of people with the Medicaid expansion. Even if it's for these 3 years, the lives that we saved during this period alone would be worth it. And so we're that's one of the things that we're having to counter, that position that we can't maintain it, so that we shouldn't get it started.
Well, yeah, that's just illogical. I mean, we're talking about, in the first segment, 2 bills that are going to generate potentially additional revenue for the state of Alabama in the future. So certainly within 3 years, you would think that those programs, a lottery vote has to go to the people, because it has to take place by amendment, or can it take place otherwise?
No, it's a constitutional amendment. It's going to go to the people.
Yeah. So the no-brainers, we'll call them the no-brainers, they're saying we can't afford what might happen in 3 years when we don't really know where we're going to be in 3 years. And for that reason, we're going to do nothing now and not take how much money? How much money is Biden trying to give us?
Well, I don't have the exact amount, but it's more than a notion. I can tell you that. You talking about what is it? Close to $1 trillion? About half $500 billion or something like that. It's a lot of money.
And historically, I think Governor Ivey has been opposed to signing that legislation.
Yes, and we're our budget chairs in the past. Remember you had Senator Pittman out of Port Clear, down that part. He was the chairman of General Fund. He wouldn't entertain it. It's just been it's been a resistance by those chairs and just by the state as a whole to grab hold and expand Medicaid.
I'm Tommy Speen. I'm speaking with Senator Rodger Smitherman, and we'll be right back. Don't go away. Welcome back to Our Issues Birmingham. Just a follow-up during the break. The cost to expand Medicaid to Alabama would be $225 million or so dollars per year, and the revenue generated by that same decision to expand Medicaid would be $900 million. Now, you do not have to be a Rhodes Scholar to do that math. I always live by the philosophy: paid in, took out, left over. Seems like a lot of money left over there, but I'll let you do that. I don't know how you do it. When you go down to the legislative body in the COVID universe, is it physically different than it has been pre-COVID, where people are milling about and grabbing you as you walk out down the hall? Is there anybody in the hall? Are they allowed in the hall?
Only by appointments. So you don't have anybody lingering in the halls at all.
Well, that has to be nice. That has to be pleasant.
You don't have many people in the building. You have some who have relationships. They can go on other floors where the break rooms are. But in terms of coming on the floors where the legislators in the chambers, you have to have an appointment to come see the legislator. And when we actually in session, they're not on the floor in the chamber. I mean, upstairs in the bathroom.
If you had a wish list out there of things you'd like to see passed, or legislation you'd like to sponsor, or legislation others are sponsoring that you think deserve priority, what would be on that list?
Well, I think one of the things that I would love to see is our at-risk funds for students who are at risk, that we get them back to the 2008 level. During that period, we had about 36 million in there to help for tutorial, would help assistance at-risk young people, and now it's down to about 20 million. So that's the wish list, because if we're going to have all these stringent requirements that our young people got to be able to do certain things by the third grade, and we're going to need, and as we go through the first and second, we're going to need to have the resources and tools to provide the help for them so they can be successful. It's because all we will be doing is a false illusion about the state is doing so great, but in essence, what you're doing is holding back people who are struggling and sending the ones forward who are not having to struggle. And so those schools will be shining, but that doesn't reflect the true nature of our whole student population as a whole in the numbers. So that's one thing. The second thing, I would Medicaid expansion, just as you mentioned, so that we would continue to be able to expand and provide additional service and bring on more people as well. Also, my other wish list, I would hope that our retirees could get some assistance and get some help as well. We weren't able to do it this year, but I think that that's going to be able to take place next year, that we can get some assistance for them as well. And of course, not last necessarily, but to be able to continue to provide the funding that we needed to help out, challenges in our city, through a variety of measures, including, through our carols and through our COVID relief funds as well.
We still have COVID money we haven't spent?
Yeah, we have some, and then there's new money coming down from the president.
Yeah,
it's going to tremendously help us in all areas of the state, and so I look forward to those funds coming down and be able to still help people. Well, continue unemployment. I hate we opting out. I saw that on June. I think the middle of June, the state is going to opt out of the federal program. I wish we would stay in it a little longer, because people still need help. People are still hurting. But hopefully we'll be able to provide some other kind of assistance that will be able to help people in need.
I think the theory is people don't want to go back to work when they can take in the same amount by not going back to work. So the idea was to shorten the unemployment numbers to put them in a position to want to go back to work.
I think, people, if there's jobs and people are able to work, they should work. But I would hope that they would look at each situation on a case-by-case basis. we will be able to the people who have problems. There are people out there who have mental illness problems, and people have other concerns and health related problems. That I would hope that we'd be able to identify those people and address them accordingly.
Well, the things you had on your list that you'd like to see happen, all of those things require income. And we've talked about two things that may generate additional income. That is the marijuana legislation, medical marijuana legislation, and potentially lottery or casino legislation. Are there any other revenue generators on the horizon aside from just job growth and what comes from job growth and things of that nature?
Well, not at the moment. I don't see any big ticket ones. I will say that our budgets are doing pretty good in this state. We are blessed in that we're not running deficits in these budgets, and our revenues not running at a deficit. And so I think that's a good sign for us in that regard. And I think just based on what happened in the prison situation as well, I think that has a lot to do with which directions we go with additional revenues, or additional bonds, or other our ratings, bond ratings, and all those kind of things. I think that situation itself is going to be a challenge for us.
Well, we don't have time to talk about the prison situation, but it's a mess, and I wish we had time to go into it. But it is encouraging to know that we're not operating at a deficit. So anything we get from whatever source is a blessing, and hopefully could be used to fund some of the programs you'd like to see advanced. Thanks a lot for being with us, Senator Smitherman. We appreciate you taking the time to do that. This is Our Issues Birmingham. We'll see you next Sunday. Have a good day, sir.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yes, sir.